What's up guys, my name is Allie. Welcome to my 30-week pregnancy update for baby number 2. It has been a while since I gave an update because this pregnancy has been crazy. Our world has been crazy with everything that's going on with this virus. So I really haven't had the energy or the whereabouts to be able to sit down and talk about everything that's been going on. So here we are. I am 30 weeks and 2 days pregnant. And in my last update, which I believe was at 22 weeks, the only thing I talked about was my placenta previa diagnosis. So in this video, I want to recap the major symptoms that I've had pretty much throughout the entire second and third trimester up to this point, and then talk about the latest with my placenta previa, my gestational diabetes diagnosis, and what our current birth plan is for having a baby during a pandemic. Overall, this pregnancy has been pretty similar to my first pregnancy with my son Lincoln, who is 21 months old at this point. As far as the first trimester goes, the only major difference was that I felt super nauseous so much longer. And I just had so many more food aversions, that's the word, food aversions. But as the second trimester came around, my appetite came back, I started feeling better, and that's only continued, thankfully. And I've been gaining weight pretty much on the same track as I did with my son. So what's funny is that I thought because I'm having a girl this time that I would be carrying her a lot different, but I really don't feel like that's the case. I'm definitely starting to feel more pressure in my hips and in my pelvis as things are like widening down there. So I'm feeling wider in my hips, but I thought I would feel wider everywhere because I've heard typically you gain more weight with a girl, but that hasn't been the case, thankfully. And it's primarily been all baby. I definitely have put on some weight like in my arms and in my legs and stuff like that, but primarily it's like baby, which I'm very grateful for. But we're also reaching the point in the pregnancy where I remember I started to puff up quite a bit. So I'm trying to keep up with my water intake to keep the puffiness low and all of that. But we will see how I continue to grow and change in the next few weeks. Another not so fond symptom that's been happening lately that I remember very vividly is the sleep troubles. And sleep troubles not only because I'm getting bigger and it's getting harder to get comfortable, but just having to wake up to go pee in the middle of the night and just not being able to fall asleep as easily. I mean, of course my mind is racing because of everything that's going on, but I think beyond that, it's just the hormones are so wild that sleep is just not as easy as it once was, unfortunately, because I mean, what is sleep? I mean, my son sleeps okay. He is a early riser and he likes to spring like random middle of the night wake ups on us here and there. So I genuinely don't remember what it's like to be able to fall asleep and sleep in to like whenever I want without having that like, even just that little like thought in the back of your mind like, oh my God, is my kid gonna wake up right now? Like I wanna go back to sleep. Is he gonna wake up any second? Like, so sleep is just a mess in general, but then adding in all this pregnancy stuff, it's even more of a mess. So love that for me. My emotions are also starting to kind of be all over the place again. I was super emotional in the first trimester. Emotional because things were really hard to come to terms with as far as the placenta previa and the virus and all that stuff during the second trimester. And at this point, I've kind of come to terms with those things, but my emotions are crazy because I'm a hormonal mess. And I don't totally recall with my son. I know I was emotional, but I feel like it's at a different level this time around. Maybe because it's a girl. I don't really know. Another thing that is different with this pregnancy is I've actually had a lot more spider veins this time around in my legs. With my son, I had a few pop up here and there, but they weren't anything super dark or anything like that, nothing painful. But this time around, at about 20 weeks, I was actually at my 20-week appointment, and I like looked down at my ankle and I was like, oh, did I twist my ankle? Like it looks kind of bruised, and didn't really give too much thought about it. But it never went away. and just over time it kind of got darker and darker, and I have like a cluster of spider veins like right on the inner side of my ankle, which is almost in a heart shape. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but it's kind of intense and gross. So I'm hoping that will go away after pregnancy and once I can be more active again and start moving. But yeah, that's the only huge cluster of spider veins that I have noticed, but I do have smaller ones popping up on my legs as well. I quickly mentioned that my appetite is so much better right now, and thankfully, but it's increasing. I'm at that point in the pregnancy where baby is going to be putting on weight very quickly, so I am just hungry for more food to give her the nutrients she needs to put on that weight. But the catch here is that unfortunately I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. In my first pregnancy, I failed the 1 hour test and went in for the 3 hour test, passed that, all good. This time around, I failed the 1 hour test. I was hopeful that I would pass the 3 hour test again. However, I did not. I failed 2 out of the 4 blood draws that they did. My fasting was fine, and then my first draw was elevated, the second draw was elevated, and then the last one was fine. So there's an added layer of complexity to this pregnancy that I just am so excited about. Not. But it is what it is. I've come to terms with it, and I'm just trying to stay as positive as I can because I just want a healthy baby. At this point, it's manageable, so I'm just doing what I have to do what's best for baby. And in a weird way, it's forcing me to be more conscious about my food decisions, and I know that that will be beneficial postpartum when I'm trying to be active again and get my body strong again and just have the energy that I need to take care of my son, who's all over the place all day long, and a newborn. So I'm just trying to use this as, I don't know, maybe a blessing in disguise to reprioritize my health. I totally got off track in the first trimester when I felt so gross, and then definitely got off track even more when I was diagnosed with the Placenta Previa because I was in bed for a while, and just, yeah, I totally am on a different end of the spectrum health-wise than I was before I got pregnant, before I had kids in general. So I'm hoping this is like kind of a kick in the pants to get back on track and start reprioritizing my health, because it is so critical that my physical and mental health is in a good spot so that I can be the best mom and wife that I can be for my kids. After I found out that I had gestational diabetes, I had a phone call with the diabetic consultant person to go over everything. Normally that would have been a visit in the office, but because they're limiting contact, it was over the phone. And so I've only been testing my sugar for 2 days. So it's all very new to me. I've tried to just clean up my diet, lower the carbs, up the protein, which has been a challenge because when I was so nauseous, all I wanted was carbs. And the idea of eating protein was like, ugh. Like, even now, chicken, not such a hot thing for me. I can do ground turkey, burgers, like beans, peanut butter, stuff like that. So I'm trying to figure out better ways to incorporate more protein into my diet while limiting the carbs, and just also eating at more systematic times. Since becoming a mom, my meal times have been all over the place. I mean, you eat when you can eat because you worry about feeding your kid first, and then you eat what's in front of you when you have 3 seconds to stuff your face. So that has been my pattern for the past nearly 2 years, and it's just been kind of hard to restructure my eating habits and really force myself to be like, okay, this is when I'm having breakfast, I'm having snack a couple hours later, like, and planning out meals in advance too, rather than just grabbing like whatever I can find in the fridge, leftovers or something quick out of the pantry. So just being more cautious in general about thinking ahead of time and prioritizing my own health and my own food needs as well as my son's. And I do have to say the finger pricking and testing and stuff like that really isn't as bad as I feared it was. It's only day 2, so maybe I'll have different thoughts in like a week. But it really doesn't hurt that bad, and it's super quick and easy. And I mean, I'm not a baby when it comes to needles, but I'm not a fan. And I did the sneak peek test where you have to prick your finger, and that needle hurts way more than these do. So just putting it out there that if you're worried about having to deal with this or anything like that, it's not as scary as it seems. Now on to talking about things that are a little bit more positive and uplifting. Exciting stuff is that in this quarantine, I have been super busy shopping online and buying so many things for the baby. Now, because it's a girl, like, I have an excuse to buy clothes. I'm trying not to go crazy, really trying. But we do have a lot of like hand-me-down stuff from my son that we can use this time around. But we did buy a crib. We've bought like shelves and things like that to put her nursery together. It's starting to come together. My husband painted, we hung up the curtains. So like little things are happening. I was dragging my feet for a while just because with so much uncertainty, I really didn't want to let myself get too excited, because it was just a wall I was putting up in case something were to happen, or, you know, anything, whatever. I was really hesitant to get excited about buying stuff and setting up the room and all of that. But just in the past month or so, especially, I've just felt more of a peace knowing that we're in the 3rd trimester. So that puts us in a different boat regarding if she's born early. And anything like that. So I've just been more confident in being able to be excited for her to get here. I've packed my hospital bag, I've packed her bag, and we have those ready to go just because who knows what could happen. And we have some more things to do in the nursery, but I'm really excited to finish that up. It's probably my favorite room in our house right now. So now I wanted to give an update on the Placenta Previa and all that's been going on with that. Now, I was diagnosed with Placenta Previa at 20 weeks pregnant with an ultrasound. And the game plan was to monitor me very closely and reevaluate at 28 weeks to see if the placenta had moved and if I could proceed with having a vaginal delivery. I had that 28-week ultrasound 2 weeks ago, and unfortunately the placenta has not moved. It is still completely covering the cervix, so I have to have a C-section scheduled for 37 weeks. My due date is June 24th, but we're looking at about June 3rd birthday, which in some ways I'm okay with because my son's birthday is at the beginning of July, so I'm okay with them having a little bit more of a gap in between their birthdays. However, having a C-section is not what I envisioned for this pregnancy. I was really excited to be able to have a vaginal delivery again, knowing what to expect and just feeling just confident already going through it one time and knowing that, you know, it's not as scary as I thought it would be. Now it was like almost 2 years ago, so I'm sure I've blocked out some of those not so pretty memories, but I remember recovery being like not bad at all. And like I was so worried about so much pain, but thankfully I didn't tear, and I just felt good like within a week. As far as I remember. I could be remembering it wrong, but as far as I remember, I felt good pretty fast. So I'm very worried this time around how recovery is going to be. I'm not totally worried about the procedure itself, just because I know that it's pretty routine at this point. But the recovery is what I'm most nervous for. I have a toddler to take care of, and then having a newborn that I want to breastfeed and all of that stuff. I don't want to be down for the count and just so much pain. So I've been trying to do some research, trying not to overwhelm myself with all of that, but also just trying to be prepared. The plan right now is that my husband can be at the hospital with me. now that might change. But unfortunately, he's the only one that can be there, and if he leaves at any point that I'm at the hospital, he can't come back. So there's just so many unknowns in this situation. So much could change in the next month and a half. It's just crazy. And so trying to have that go with the flow mentality, while also just preparing myself that things might not go how I expect them to go at this point. What's also intimidating about having the placenta previa is that there is the risk of bleeding, and I did have an additional bleed at just shy of 27 weeks, and it was probably the most significant bleed. Yeah, definitely was the most significant bleed. I had some spotting at night, and then I just felt like period cramps, and I went to bed, and around 1 in the morning I woke up because I could feel just like blood. So I went to the bathroom, and it was a lot, and that scared me so much. So I called the doctor right away. The on-call doctor called me back and was like, well, maybe you should come in to be seen, just checked out, because where you are in your pregnancy and all that stuff. So I went into the hospital, and they hooked me up to the monitors. Baby looked great. They did a little like vaginal exam, and they could see some blood, but they weren't super concerned because I wasn't actively bleeding at that point. But it was a little surreal because we walked into the hospital, and the person from the ER brought us up to the maternity ward, and there was like a group of people in the maternity ward, like literally ready to like help me give birth at that point, which I did not expect because I was only 27 weeks, but they had their crew there on standby that if I was really bleeding that bad, that they would have just delivered the baby at that point. So that kind of was a reality check for me, in thinking like, holy crap, like if something were to happen, this baby could really come at any time, which is so scary because I really don't want to have to deal with like a NICU situation during this whole pandemic, and just the added layers of complexity that having to stay in the NICU would bring. So I'm really, really hoping that we can make it to 37 weeks and we can come home and just start this next chapter like in a normal way, as normal can be during this time. But there's just a lot of unknowns, so I'm just trying to take it a day at a time and just know that God is in control and He has a plan for this. As crazy as things are right now, I know that we will look back in time and realize that God's hand was in every aspect of this crazy time of our lives. It doesn't make sense now, and I'm not sure when it will make sense, and I'm sure there's more complexities that are ahead, but I'm really trusting that this is a part of my story, a part of my baby girl's story, a part of my family's story for a reason. So I'm just resting in that, and really that's all of it I can do at this point because so much is out of my control. As far as what comes next, my next appointment is in a couple weeks, 32 weeks. At this point, I'm not planning to go into the doctor's office, but it'll be a call with the OB. Until then, I'm hoping to just be able to figure out how to best manage this gestational diabetes without completely losing my mind or feeling starving all the time. Going to continue to just get the baby's room in order, wash some of the new clothes that I have coming in because I just can't stop shopping online, and just keep enjoying time with my son too. Another just frustrating part about this placenta previa is that I had so many intentions to just do so much with my son while it was just the two of us. And of course that has changed since I am really limited to what I can do. I'm not bedridden, but I'm even nervous about going for extended walks and being outside standing for too long just because I just don't want anything bad to happen. So I'm trying to have that balance between spending quality time with him, doing fun things with him, but also taking care of myself and the baby to the best of my ability. So it's just tough, but I'm just trying to soak in like the simple moments where it's just him and I watching like the stupid music YouTube videos that he just is obsessed with right now, while I'm trying not to lose my mind, but just like holding him and just being so grateful that we're home right now. We're in a safe place, we're healthy, and we have each other. It's been unexpected too that my mom has been around so much. Once I had the placenta previa diagnosis, she started to come over and help out, and just as things kind of progressed and I've had the bleeds, she's been around even more, helping like every day when my husband's at work. And it's like a blessing in disguise too that I get to have that extra time with her and that my son gets to have that extra time with her too. Like, it's just not what I envisioned for this pregnancy, but I know God has placed these things in our path for a reason, so I'm just trying to be grateful and look for the positives in it and all of that. So I think that is all that I have to share in this update. I know it was a lot. Had a lot that I hadn't covered yet, and hopefully I will be able to do some more updates before baby girl is actually here. But this crazy time will continue, and we will see what the future holds in time. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon. Bye.